Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycle Special Edition. Viva Las Vegas. Yes, we're taking a little trip into Las Vegas, and here we are. I'm kind of, am I a dirty lens? Or is it just over apertured? Anyway, hopefully you can see me okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Yes, this is kind of a, I just wanted to get this out there. I'm on vacation, hanging out in our condo in Las Vegas. If you watch my channel, you definitely have seen me have a couple short little stints over the time of being in Las Vegas. And over the last 2 years owning this condo and these trips, I've been constantly looking for a bicycle to buy to keep here. With, traveling with a bike, with the kid and all the stuff that comes with it for traveling, driving here. That's kind of a little of a tricky bit, especially when you have a 9-year-old's all their stuffies in the back. So and we don't have, you wouldn't believe this, I do not have car racks at this time because we have 2 newer vehicles that are both EVs and I haven't made that. So, and also for what I do, I don't transport bikes a lot anymore. I used to do a higher volume of refurbishing. Now I'm just basically just doing, YouTube, and also a lower volume, so I'm only transporting 1 or 2 bikes at a time, any kind of thing. In any case, back to my story. I'm here in Vegas, 2 years of purchasing the condo that we have, and we've got it all set up, couches and all comfy and all that, right? But I've noticed in the wintertime, it's like, it is freaking nice compared to Colorado, especially today when you're looking at a high of 30 with snow, and here it's balming 60 degrees, blue skies, palm trees, a very low wind. So I'm like, oh, I gotta, one of these times. But what I've noticed, looking at the used market, and this is a little testimonial, because in the front range of Colorado, Denver Metro Corridor, which is basically several millions of people, the prices of bikes have dropped. And what I've noticed in used bikes, and what I've noticed in Las Vegas, that the prices have really not dropped, and there's not a huge quantity of them. So I guess it's a demand situation. It's kind of weird because when I've been looking at bikes and so forth here, they've always been extremely more expensive when I get them home. That's why I really have not pulled the trigger on buying a bike here. I was thinking about maybe having one shipped here at some point, that kind of thing. So I'm still looking at that too. All right, Spooky Tuesday. Thank you for joining me from Pueblo. I bet it's a little bit warmer there, not here, but a little bit warmer than Loveland, Colorado, where I am residing. So thank you for joining me. Hey, this is going to be a short one because I just wanted to kind of get this basically off my chest. Like, this is great. I'll make a more featured video of this particular bike in months to come when I come visit it because it's going to stay here. Well, if you know my channel and I refurbish bikes, you know that I like Lemonds. And man, when I saw this one, you saw it in the thumbnail, bam. So this gentleman here locally, close to me, in my area where we have our condo, is dropped it to $100. I'm like, I just at least have to look at this regardless. It's like, I have to go check this out. Contact the guy. I was like, oh, luckily I was not sold already, which was awesome because that's usually what happens when the price gets too low. Somebody snipes it and you're like, done. But no, and it was like, hey, can I, come by and take a look at it, whatever. We finally, go back and forth. He's actually out of town. He had to arrange somebody to be able to show it to me here in Vegas. I mapped out the location where he generally said where it was. Excuse me, I'm going to eat some of my fries before they get cold. Kind of caught me at lunch. Well, 7 miles away. And I'm like, oh, I could ride there. We didn't bring a car this time. We flew out, so I had to Uber it over there. Whole whopping $16, so big deal, right? We're like, okay, go out there. Said the bike is rideable and all that, but that could be a misnomer. So I was prepared to Uber back with the bike, but I was like, well, I need to be prepared. So I got myself a helmet and gloves. So I didn't have them here. I have not stocked up the house here in Vegas with riding stuff. So here I'm like, oh, I need a water bottle. I need like all this stuff. So that put me in the whole newbie realm, right? Like, oh man, I know all the crap because I know what I need, especially the helmet, number 1, safety, 2, gloves. And I already have a pump here for blowing up inflatables for the pool, so we're good there. I did bring tools and a bike stand in anticipation of eventually doing this. That's here, but I didn't have any of the riding gear and shoes and all the other stuff. So lo and behold, I'm like, scrambling. The guy was selling the bike with the pair of shoes, which pretty close to my size. Like I could at least suffer through 7 miles, or 10 miles, or whatever it turned out to get back to the condo. And I have no experience of riding in Las Vegas, so that was kind of like a very nervousness of me of trying to figure out where is to be a good way to ride back, because you think if you've ever been to Las Vegas and you ever been to the Strip, almost everybody dies by cabs hitting somebody. So you just think it's that way all over the whole city. It's not. Actually, it's kind of the opposite, believe it or not. And the last trip I was here, I did stop by a local shop, and learnings of Las Vegas compared to Colorado market, they call it the shoulder season, which means their spring and the fall is their riding season. And the winter, believe it or not, from anybody north from here is like, you kidding me? The winter is too cold for them to ride. No, it's 60 degrees. It's beautiful. And in summer, obviously, it's way too damn hot. Because when you're looking at 105 degrees or whatever, your tires would probably melt on the pavement. I mean, it's just brutal. Even though they do some riding, but it's usually very, very early, or they do night rides, which is the hot season areas will do in those off seasons. So actually, it has a longer, bigger window of cycling than it would be for Colorado, although it does get really hot. In any case. So that was a learning. And the shop I was at, I was like, hey, what's the demographics of what kind of riding? Well, lo and behold, I learned that road bike is huge and mountain biking is huge and no gravel whatsoever. So it's one of those weird quinkadinks where it's the terrain is very aggressive, pretty hard on gravel bikes. You want the suspension if you're doing those kind of riding, and they have a lot of pavement. And Vegas is one of those places that it's been building quite substantially in the last 10 years. In the sprawling area, there's a lot more people moving here, living here. City blocks are being built up. I mean, it's kind of like a monopoly board just popping up everywhere. It's just crazy. And there's a lot of new developments. Even though our condo is older, but there's still a lot of area that they're building right now. So in any case, that's what we're looking at. And going back to the search, right? Like, okay, it seems nice in the winter, and I've been itching to want to ride, and it just never got a bike here yet. Shame on me, but it just didn't work out. Because our trips are short, and you want to stick with the family and that kind of thing, whatever. Every excuse under the sun, right? But this time I'm like, $100, right here. You're seeing it right here, Buenos Aires, from Lemond. Classic steel. It's an 853 Reynolds tubing. This is those classic looking bikes, but it rides phenomenal. The chromoly tubing is super nice, and it has full Ultegra too. So even though it's older, it's still Ultegra. And this stuff, if you've watched my channel at all, you've known that this stuff is a workhorse. It holds up as long as it's not worn out, which looking at the pictures, it didn't look bad at all. Sometimes the shifters get gummed up. These are a little bit slow to shift, so at some point I'm going to either take the parts with me and clean them and bring them back, which is an option. I just thought of that right now in a hot moment. And other parts, I mean, transporting a whole bike during flight or shipping, it gets expensive. But I could take off a couple of parts and throw it in my suitcase and clean them and come back and do the drivetrain clean there at home and bring it back and do his reassembly and give me an opportunity to shoot another video of me putting back together my bike. And custom bits I'm going to need to do, the stem is a little too long. So when I did the 8-9 mile ride on the way back, which was a beautiful loop around Cactus to Fort Apache, rolling hills, and my God, the bike lanes were like 10 feet wide. It was huge in some areas. It was like safety is like not an issue. And apparently they have at the shop here, which is back to that, mountain and road. Well, they're a road shop, and they have 2 rides a week, group rides. One's basically a racer, burn yourself out, and the second one is no drop. So now, since I have a bike for $100, by the way, which sometimes you see those in my market where there's a lot more bikes. Not usually. Typically when I'm buying these, they're usually around 200 to 250 used, and sometimes they're in a lot rougher shape. So anyway, it looks like I need to get a haircut again. Oh, sorry, sidebar. And I just was like, that's why I was like, oh, I got to check this out. And it's close to my size. And the guy's like, 6'1", I'm 5'11". I'm like, he didn't know exactly the size. I'm like, it's pretty close. It's either a 57 centimeter or a 59. I could work out with a 59, which is most likely what it is. But when I jumped on it, I haven't got a tape measure out. But actually, I just got back from the ride and took a shower. So from getting it, so this is like right off the lot. Well, right off somebody else's garage. And still an avid rider, talking to the guy, original owner. He did a couple centuries on it, which is pretty cool. Which was really nice to get to know original owners. There's such a huge benefit to it. You know the history of the bike. They know how much they've had it tuned or whatever. He knew it's still rideable. Just need to air up the tires, which was fine. He also had a little pack here that he gave me, which has like an extra tube and a pump and all the the essential things you need. So I was kind of like concerned if I get a flat or whatever. In the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I get Uber out, whatever, if I need to, not a problem. And bottle cages. Came with shoes with clipless pedals, which clipless pedals are down there, and carbon fork steel frame. It's a no-winner, no-brainer. So it's like, okay, as long as it's not busted up or cracked or anything like that, I'm gonna take it. What I do, refurbish bikes, and if it's not the right size, I don't like the ride, or something's wrong with it, I can figure something out, right? So it's really not, I wouldn't say a risk for me whatsoever. So opportunities, if you find yourself in a place which has pretty decent used market, you can pick one up. I've known some people that have actually traveled with their bikes to other countries, and the cost of the bikes are there so much more, they're able to sell their bikes for a substantial amount of extra money and pays for a part of their trip. So that's kind of another thing. And also bringing in bikes into different countries, if it's under the used category, it doesn't have to deal with any of those taxes or some of those taxes, but that might be different now. I haven't done a lot of shipping out of country. But when you're looking at doing a trip, when you look at renting something, so like back to that bike shop, Pedal and Pour, who it was called, really nice guys, really cool coffee shop, really good vibe to it, but they also rented road bikes. And I'm a classic road rider. I don't need to ride the fancy carbon bikes or even the fancy aluminum. I don't care. Give me the older one. And what they charged was $100 to rent. And I'm like, oh, I can rent? And I'm like, wait a second. If I can find a used bike for the same cost of renting, then I actually own it. Then I don't have to rent another one. So, of course I'm going to go that direction. Plus the classic of steel riding. If you know me, you know I have a pop rod, which is a steel cross version of this. A couple of years older or newer. And then I have a full carbon Buenos Aires, which is really nice right before Trek Canada line. So that was kind of a really interesting, fun quinkadink to have those and really follow the Le Mans and so forth. But anyway, so, why am I jibber-jabbering about this? And I'm not going to take very long. But the idea is you go out of town, if you're going to be gone for like a week or two or whatever on a trip, and you do a lot of riding instead of bringing that bike, if you just bring shoes, pedals, maybe a saddle and a helmet, and your cycling apparel, of course, then you can just rent one, or you can see if you can buy one, ride it, and if you're skilled of working on stuff, you can kind of tune it back up and throw it on sale and dump it. So basically, you might be able to get more out of it, ish, or you just keep it if you have a second place somewhere. Which, in case in point, what am I doing? Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of space, so I'm going to be kind of arm wrestling the wife, like, going to put it in the closet. No, we're going to put it in here. So anyway, that's going to be the only trouble bit. But the spare bedroom has a decent sized closet, not walk-in, but it has vertical. Now I was thinking about doing some vertical filing of some bikes in there, and she likes to ride too, but we're looking for more recreational style, just running around to restaurants and running around neighborhoods and parks and stuff and having the kiddo, because we bring our daughter, which is 9 now, most of the time on these trips, and we want to have something that can kind of, especially if we fly in, so we're not totally Ubering to the little local areas, and make it a little more fun. So therefore, that kind of opens up the opportunities of doing other things. So in any case, so what really made me pull the trigger on this guy was I've refurbished a lot of these Buenos Aires full steel frames. The paired spoke systems, select wheels, I haven't inspected it yet, but it could be cracked. But they don't usually have a huge fail rate. They just start to look like they're going to fail. And a lot of times then you want to replace those wheels at some point for sure. But as it sits, and when I rode it, yeah, it took me a little time I had to stop a couple times and adjust the seat to get the right. And the bars were so rolled down, so I feel like I was doing one of those leaning over too far, so I rolled them up a little bit, so it gives you a little more of a plane here. But once I did those 2 adjustments, it's great. The saddle's a little cushy for me. It doesn't sit in my junk very well. So I'll definitely grab one of the saddles that fit me a little bit better from home and swap it out on the next trip. But other than that, though, I mean, I'll do a little more inspection today. We fly out tomorrow morning, so it's not going to have a little too much time to get all lovey-dovey with it. But in any case, for as it sits, I now have a bike to ride. So when the wife is sleeping in and the daughters is watching whatever she's watching and ignoring me, I can go sneak out for a couple hours and go check out the sights of beautiful Las Vegas. And you think Las Vegas, Sin City, and all that in a desert, they have what they call the red rocks that wraps, basically it's in a bowl with mountains all the way around it. And it's beautiful. Red rock. We did some hiking last year. It's beautiful. So therefore, it's going to give me the opportunity to explore and to see and experience a lot more than I would if I just what I have been doing. So it gives me those great opportunities to join those group rides that they provide at the shops here, get more connected with the people. The guy I bought the bike from, he's like really like, oh, that's awesome. He's really in tune. It's like, hey, it's like, I made a buddy. It's like, of course, bike people like bike people if you're doing recreational riding. And I asked him like what roads are probably the safer roads to ride on, because I was nervous, I don't know. And it gave me like 3 different options of going in the direction I was being at. So it's like very, very, very helpful. And when you're buying from somebody, an original owner that knows the area, that's a win-win. I mean, it made me very comfortable about, okay, I'm going to shoot down there, grab the bike, and just, get ready to do some riding somewhere in the off season when it's this 60 versus snow and doing the indoor stuff, which we do what we need to do, but we know the tech is really nice. The kicker and the Strava and all that stuff is really nice, but quite honestly, it's still freaking indoors. I mean, you can sugarcoat it as much as you want, but it still sucks. As much as riding outside and exploring new places and doing rides. So I'm super excited. That's what pre-impromptu to me to do this video is like, hey, if you're going on any trips and you're like, especially the holidays, Buddy John Bradley, he had family up in where he moved to, Minnesota, and over the years of constantly going up there, he started buying just bikes to leave there and just to ride when he's visiting, visiting his in-laws. What a great way to get away from your in-laws, right? In any case, oh, hey, Pat. Oh, you're from Minnesota. Yeah, look up John. He's probably right down the street from me. I'm just kidding. He's metropolitan, Minneapolis, somewhere over there. I haven't got, he's close to actually Park Tools up there, which is very, very fun and interesting. But yeah, just if you're just joining in, just want to let you know that we've had this condo for 2 years, been coming periodically here and there. It's not very big, so I don't have a lot of bike storage per se, but I've been always been looking for a bike, and the bike market was a lot more expensive here than Colorado, so I never really pulled the trigger. But if you look at it, this guy had it listed, and he just dropped the price to $100, and I'm like, I was on it like glue. And just my normal nature of purchasing bikes in Colorado, I still do that here for fun, just to see the market, and I totally lucked out. Looking at a bike like this, it's full chromoly, really in good condition. The paint is hardly even scuffed up, a little bit, but mostly from like garage wear, I would say, more than anything else. And you enjoy the palm trees behind me too. But you got the carbon fork, 105 componentry. So when you're looking at like used, and it's within that top 3 tier of the top line componentry, and if they're very honest, sometimes used people, they're selling used bikes, are not very honest. There lies, if you're buying it from original owner, you get a little better sense of things are going to be good. or less likely to be crap. And I've had situations where the bikes were damaged and I went back to them and was like, hey, did you know this was wrong with it? And they're like, oh, I had no idea. And they, like, do you want a full refund? I was like, oh no, if you can just like kick me back and, Venmo me like a couple $100 or $100, whatever the price variance would be to kind of offset that, they kind of soften the blow, which has actually happened a couple times. So most people that have the original bikes that they're selling are usually pretty straight up. So case in point, here we go. What I'm really excited about possibly upgrading is it does have the 26.6 bar, so I'm going to go to 31.8. So I'm going to look at maybe a carbon bar. Because at some point I'm going to have to pop these shifters off anyway to ultrasonic clean them, to clean them up as they were really sticky inside. At least do the hot water trick to at least kind of flush them out. And the cables and housing are probably pretty old and new, so there lies I'd probably bring, take the shifters home, maybe the drivetrain home if I get into my next trip with in the bag. And then I can clean those parts when I come back, switch out the bar and stem. I got to do the short stem anyway, so that's a great opportunity to switch it out and find myself a good carbon bar to go with that to kind of make the rides a little more supple. In addition to, I believe these are 23s. I want to do at least 25s. I don't think 28s will fit very well, depending on the brand, of course. You got to be really careful about that on these roadies. But at least a 25 that gives a little more wider range. And tires, crazy enough, tires, and Bradley brought this to my attention, and I totally forgot. Like, tires make a whole difference on how your ride feels. So if you get a little bit more of a supple tire, or something that has, you can go a little bit lower in pressure, not tubeless, that kind of thing to get really low. But sorry, another thing, I'm recovering from I'm almost done with a cold, but I was riding, I was like, oh, it's really felt more challenging than it should be coming from altitude to almost sea level. But in any case, but tires really huge difference, because the higher pressure gives you less road resistance, therefore you're faster, but it really beats you up, so you feel more of that road. So you're trying to find that sweet spot of what tire pressure feels better for you and how it handles. And a lot of us are just recreational riding. It's more of the comfort factor versus the speedy efficiency. Well, there's a couple of people out there, but anyway, but most cases that if you get a tire that's a little bit wider with a little bit lower pressure, I was surprised that Bradley did about 80-85 psi on us, but stick with the range that's recommended on the side of the tire. That's pretty important. But and if you go too low, you can hit something and that may cause damage to the rims. So you want to make sure you're within that sweet spot of still protection there. But yeah, with this one, I'm probably gonna switch out some tires. It's a little more supple. They are used, so yeah, maybe able to get another trip out without buying another set. But I'll just Amazon set or have a drop set, ship set here, and swap those out and have that a little bit better ride. So the improvement of the ride, cleaning the drivetrain, check the chain. But other than that, add on a carbon bar with a proper seat. The thing is going to be solid. And that's what I'm looking for a recreational bike when I'm here in town. It doesn't have to be the lightest thing. It doesn't have to be dainty carbon, like all fancy and aerodynamic with internal routing and all that. Basically, I want a basic so I can actually work on it when I need to quickly, not just like, oh man, I got to spend like half of my vacation working on my bike to get it to work. No, I want to like 20 minutes and be done and go and hit the road, that kind of thing. So those are the gems that you'll see in various markets that, well, you might as well grab if you can and use it as a backup bike if you're consistently going somewhere and have an extra. I know it sounds like you're adding more bikes, but transporting bikes across country sucks. It's hard. It's hard on the bike, it's hard on you, it's hard on everything, because if you're even throwing it in a box to fly it, or if you put it in the back of the vehicle, you're worried about it disappearing when you're going through a windstorm, all those things. So if you have a bike in place, you just jump on it, it's all set up and fitted to you, boom, you just have another set of shoes and a helmet. All you have to do is show up. That's great. That's what I'm been thinking about doing, and here we are. We finally got her. But anyways, here we are. Excuse me. Yeah, I've been hearing from some of the locals, especially the guy that sold me the bike. I mean, it's an awesome place to ride. I can't see why not. As long as I was afraid of like the traffic thing, but some areas the traffic's like just crazy. But there is some outskirt riding and also through the Red Rocks area, which has been pretty common for a lot of cyclists. So as long as the people are conditioned to be watching out for cyclists, which I was pleasantly surprised when all the traffic lights I came across, which were not big, just but you can tell the cars definitely gave me a wide girth. I mean, even though maybe they were super nice because it's Sunday morning or something, but in any case, it seemed like the traffic was kind of aware of cyclists, and the infrastructure that they were designing, at least on the outskirt riding that I did today, were designed for cycling. I mean, a big wide girth. So they have the space. I mean, why might as well do it. And if they continue to develop like they have been for more urban sprawl, those kind of things are actually added to those developments. So, and also planned out going forward for the infrastructure. Because a lot of cities have really started embracing the cycling, and when they're doing that much development, it tends to be really good because they actually start putting in more bike paths, more better bike lanes, and more conscious awareness of cyclists. And that just helps everything all the way around, because it's not just recreational cyclists that they're trying to cater to, is also those who commute, those who are using it for recreation, not recreational, but that's how they get to work and back and that kind of thing. So it's a win-win-win, and also cuts down on emissions and all that other stuff that everybody preaches about. But in any case, it's awesome to see it. What a nice place, because for us from Colorado, we're used to the 30s and 40s, and come here and the highs are in the 60s. That's a 20-degree variance. We're at the pool in January. All the locals look at us crazy, but we're like, this is not bad, in the hot tubs especially. So, and riding wasn't too bad. And the funny thing was, I was in a sweatshirt, t-shirt with some just, I call them daddy yoga pants, because they're just like your throw on sweatpants kind of thing. And that's where I was. I was just like, I mean, I know it's totally dorked out the other direction of dorkness, but being a cyclist all this time, wearing a helmet, all the skinny shit, yeah, it's you're already a dork anyway, so I didn't care as long as nobody hit me. A little string backpack to carry all my other stuff. So it was kind of interesting ride, but the bike felt great. I was very pleasantly surprised. It does have most of the original matchy stuff, excluding the seat. Yeah, so back to the fitting piece of it. Yeah, once I do some of those fittings, it's going to be an awesome ride for me. And then I'll be looking for something for my wife and my daughter possibly as well. Yeah, so that kind of sounds selfish. Yes, I got the first bike for me. But no, I've been working with or looking into, you know, there's bikes that are being made from Specialized called the Roll. And the model looks like it has like a BMX style bar cruiser. It's like a modern day cruiser with 27B wheels, kind of balloon style. We have a pair of those, super comfy for riding around the neighborhoods and that kind of thing. Would be perfect for here. So that's what I'm kind of be looking for. But unfortunately, looking at the used market, anything I see here is $200 or $300 more than I can get in Colorado. So either I buy it there and bring it here, or I did find a company called Medem, which are basically the parent company is called Kent International. And Medem's the website they use to kind of dump all the lines where they basically don't have enough volume to support the big chains that they sell to, which is kind of crazy. But they do carry the Univega line, which is very interesting because the Univega line has a model that looks very similar as to the Roll, and they are selling them for like $250 free shipping. So I'm like, well, new bike versus used for just a recreational putz around Vegas bike? I may have to try it out. In any case. Did pick up one of those Gordini gravel bikes, which are actually not too bad. And a customer of mine brought one of those in too. Plus, they also give you a $75 service credit for a local shop to put it together for you to cover anything. So anyway, it's basically a big corporation dump zone of getting rid of like leftover bike runs. And when they have a run, when you're talking about selling hundreds of thousands of bikes to like Target or whatever, Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, they'll have a batch left over where it's not enough to fulfill. Therefore, they kind of just put them to this site and just discount the hell out of them. This is a flush for them. a win for us if you want a new bike shipped to you for free. I mean, I mean, I can't say anything wrong about that. I mean, if it came in slightly damaged, sell the parts. Make of that. In any case, so those are the kinds of things I was looking at as perspectives of being on vacation. And wait a second, I need to buy a bike. Do I just roll into Walmart and grab a bike like one of those Ozarks? I didn't really feel like I wanted to do that. I wanted to find something classic for myself or just recreational road riding, but the family stuff, maybe so. Therefore, that's where we're looking at the industry as just kind of being kind of aboard. If I'm buying bikes from our second home, it's either going to be a nice used vintage for a lower price point or maybe something that's lesser, because I'm not want to put, a lot of us are not going to want to put a lot, you're not going to drop $3,000 on a bike that's going to be sitting there for most of the year and you're only going to ride it for like 4 times a year. Nobody's in the right mind is going to do that unless you have more dollars and cents. So this is a great option and go, is leveraging the used. And also going forward from how the bike industry is doing, yeah, what they are producing now is lower level $2,000 junk. It's just, it infuriates me to a lot of levels. Don't want to go there. I'm on a happy day. I'm not going to go that. But we're going to talk about that when we're talking about different industry things. But in any case, and Trek is the next one I'm going to be talking about. Try to do a little bit of history on and see where they're going to be at going into 2025. Prelude to what my next video is going to be coming in the next week or so. But in any case, what we're looking at this is classic, fun, environment. This just took my happy place, which already my happy place is my garage and my shop when I work on stuff. But now this is my happy place where we go out and have a few beverages, have some good food, go do some fun things with the family or just as a couple and those kinds of things. Now I have a little, let me just run out for 2 hours while you're still sleeping and go get a nice ride in and go see some sights and maybe start connecting with some locals here. Because at some point, we probably want to eventually move here as our residence once our daughter is graduated out at some point, for sure. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah. All right, reading some comments here. Now, used bikes all depends how much you really want to put a budget onto it. The Muffin Man, yes, we're talking, okay, you're talking about a 21 Roubaix comp for 1,800. Well, number one, on those newer bikes within the last 5 to 10 years, you can go to bicyclebluebook.com. You can kind of put the year, make, and model and get kind of an idea what those prices would be for used. That's a good starting point. It's not an end-all be-all by any means. So if you're trying to sell or buy or whatever, that's just kind of like a point on the map, and then you can kind of go from there. And it all depends on your market, and what's the demand, and also seasonality. So those are the things that are not equated to the Bicycle Blue Book, so you got to take a grain of salt. But it's a great starting point. So when Muffin Man was talking about the 21 Roubaix comp with Ultegra, actually sounds like a good bike. Roubaix is a endurance style gravel, I wouldn't say gravel, but closer to gravel-ish road, which more of a lax design, more comfortable, full carbon. I think those are full carbon. And Ultegra. So for 1,800 for being only 3 years old, that's not too bad. Is it disc? Is it calipers? Most likely it's probably disc. I don't think it's Di2 unless you mentioned that. Those kind of up the cost, but also that ups the cost of maintenance, because bleed kits are not cheap. Learning how to do it yourself, I mean, I highly recommend it. If you have a hydraulic line brake system on your bike, you better learn how to do it, because the cost of you taking it to the shop is going to be expensive. But it's not hard. It's just a messy ordeal. But in any case, learning your brake systems and going away from the calipers like these to the disc is something you want to know your pads, how those work, how the rotor may get bent or how to bend those back. There's a whole different layer of adjustments and maintenance that you probably want to uplift and do and learn yourself, in addition to different brake pad surfaces like on these roads. But for those, if you do like a semi-metallic, organic pads or something like that, it's less likely to squeal, some grab better. So there's performance factors on those. So at some point you're going to wear those pads out, or they squeak a lot and you want to switch out pads that are not as squeaky, that kind of thing. So that's with the hydraulic. If it was cable actuated, which this one would have cable actuated if it was, you definitely want to look into compressionless. Oh, there's a hummingbird behind me. Compressionless housing, which helps with those cable actuated disc brakes kind of thing. Standard cabling and so forth. You can get nice fancier stuff. I just suggest getting the aligned pre-greased housing for both brake and derailleurs, because that just helps with the water barrier and slows down the wear down and wear and tear internally of the housing, which is usually the replacement part. Cables themselves usually last a long time. You actually can take an old cable and take some steel wool and clean it back up, and usually most of the time it's just fine. You may just want to get some, it's not expensive lift too either, just switch it out. In any case, yeah, just want to answer your question. 1800, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you if it's a great deal or not, but what it also comes down to, another talking point of actually buying into a used bike, it's like condition, right? It could be like great on paper, but looking like I did on this bike, I inspected the wheels, make sure they were true, and make sure the wheels felt smooth, ran through the shifters, made sure they actually were shifting. It was a little hesitation, but I knew what the cause of that was. Looking at the cables and inspecting the frame with any kind of damage or scuffs or cracks or anything like that. You do that one. You want to do that on any bike, even if it's the 21 Roubaix. It all in condition. Make sure it's clean. I did have a good customer line reach out recently and go, "Hey, there's a gravel bike from a team. What's your thoughts on those?" Well, gravel, or I'm sorry, not gravel, it was a cross bike, which was, gravel, but used in cross racing. Cross racing, those racers are hard on bikes. So, if it's a pro bike, mechanics usually work on those almost on every race, so it has a better chance of being a better quality. If it's a mid-level or a low-level racer that just got the bike but doesn't have any support like that to maintain their bikes, it kind of can be a crapshoot. So it's really going to have to be an inspection and so forth. Some of those race teams, though, they do have backup bikes that never see the light of day. They get cycled out because the next model they're going to be racing is not that one. So that gets just basically sold off to support the team, those kind of things, or however they work it. So buying race bikes from actual professional racers can be a good deal, but buyer beware, because they could be really used and abused. So then if it's like a case in point on this one, there's original owner. So if you can vet original owner of the bike, that gives you a little more history of it and maintenance, and you can kind of tell the vibe of the person that if they actually do take care of their stuff, they appreciate it. He basically named his bike, and he had some great miles on it. So it's kind of like one of those attachment things. When you're buying a bike from somebody that has those attachments, it had maybe a better chance and better end of the day, you get a better bike in a sense versus somebody that's constantly flipping the bikes. All right, looked it up on the Blue Book. I don't want GI2. Cost electronics failure. Yeah, some people don't like it. Yeah, I would say if it's within the Blue Book range, and also when I leverage Blue Book, this is because of my business and what I do, I leverage the wholesale pricing, not the consumer to consumer. And looking at the market that we're faced with, nobody buying any bikes right now at all, that 1800 might be on the top scale that they're trying to get. That may not what he's going to get. So I wouldn't say, be mean and lowball somebody, but you can really say, honestly, the prices are looking towards that bracket price range versus what they're trying to get. I mean, this one, for example, was $250 originally list, which is not bad, right? And would have been something I may have looked at in Colorado, but once he dropped it to 100, like, oh, damn, I got to go check that out. That's where I've been seeing a lot of the used market right now, where people have been listing and it's been sitting there for several weeks and nobody's looking. The ones I've seen on my saved list, the ones that are actually moving is bikes that are under 300 bucks. Anything else above that, it may be, you know, you might get that right person right out of the gate. Like, oh, I've been looking for that Specialized 21 comp Roubaix. I've just been waiting for it, and then they have money to just jump on it. But no, most likely not. A lot of those bikes I've been noticing are just sitting around for a while, and then you can actually leverage, like, hey, this is what I can afford, and use that instead of like kind of just talk you down on it. It's just kind of mean, just like, hey, I only can afford this to do that bike, or the value of that bike, whatever. You can say it in a nice way, and therefore you can see if they would go ahead and like, oh, I've had it for a while. Yeah, okay, let's just get rid of it. Or maybe they're like, it's not worth to me to get rid of. That's fine. You got to be able to walk away from any deal. Also, if you roll up to a bike and it's not rideable, walk away. That's the thing is, like, the tires are not aired up and whatever. He didn't have his tires aired up. He was actually out of town. So I give him credit, at least I have a pump. If you know how to use one, I get it. But any case, before you list a bike, this is a selling tip, make sure the damn thing is ready to go when you list it. Not just like, oh, I'll get to it when somebody's interested. Make sure it's right out of the gate and ready to go, because you may have to have somebody else in your household show the bike in this case. So anyway, that's just a seller tip, that kind of deal. All right, 4,200 new. Oh, it's over half below. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it'd be worth taking a look at. Leverage the pricing. If it has any kind of scuffages or anything like that wasn't mentioned, start ticking it down. Tires worn, that's going to add me another $100. Just get a little running tick on there. It's like, well, for me to get this bike running the way I want it to run, it's going to cost me tires, saddle, bar tape, maybe some labor on that, $250, easy. So if somebody's looking at that $1,800 bike, for example, in the chat, like, you $250 to $350 is going to be right out of the gate, and I don't care how good it is. It's like you might have to put that into it. So, that's a kind of a thing. So, yeah, there's a checklist. I do have a checklist in my video library. So check top 5 things to look for when buying a bike. So check that out. It covers the basics. I did have like an earlier video series. Older stuff, bad volume, bad lighting, all that. It was a top 20 thing. It really gets detailed. But if you want to really put some hours on my account for watch view, great. Just go through the top 20 and you'll learn some stuff. It's just not going to be the best quality. I've really upped my game since then. Just a heads up on that. But I do have that top 5 that's more recent, which kind of gives you a good idea. And that can be flipped to sell too. I mean, when you're ready to sell something and you want to try to get the most value out of it, I think maybe I had a video too about it too. Anyway, because I live in the used realm, that's what I do. And then I work with other things. Oh, sounds like the Broncos are playing, and they scored. So I'm going to have to go join my wife watching the football game while we're in Las Vegas watching the Broncos in Denver. Yeah, anyway, just wanted to give a few minutes, which is a lot more minutes than I thought would be, talking about this, but thank you for chiming in. I will still have my Shop Talk Tuesday, coming Tuesday, and a little hinter, it's my birthday, another year around the sun, so we'll talk about some good stuff. I do have some good stuff to show, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for hanging out with me. Just wanted to give some good little tips on buying a bike while you're out of town. It can be done. You don't have to be afraid. I was afraid. I'm in an industry, but that actually turned out to be really good find. Well, anyway, thank you for hanging out with me, and until next time, have a wonderful day, and yes, I'll see you all on Tuesday. And check out some of those other videos about buying and selling. I have it underneath that library or playlist. That's what it's called. In any case, have a great time, and until next time, if it's great in your neck of the woods, like this here, go out there and go for a ride. And if not, have a celebrity beverage and go watch a good football game. Until next time, thank you.